Alright, time for another draftphysics.com video presentation. So the Ian Gosling, in his desperate effort to cheat the experiment, frankly, and cheat the actual scientific method and process entirely. So he posted a video, right? And so I'll make this a series. We'll just call this part 2. Okay, same title. Momentum rules, KE fools, and it's just for the fools, really. And they're proving they're fools, they're morons, they're clowns, they're idiots. They really don't care about science. They just care about proving me wrong, and they'll cheat whatever it takes. They just don't care. All right. Anyway, so he's done the experiment a third way now. So let's understand. The first way he did it had a obvious error in it. Claimed it was proof. The experiment was good enough to be proof, okay? Obviously not proof. Not even close to a proof of his own theory. All right. Yes, didn't prove mine, but didn't prove his either. So a junk experiment. Then he does the experiment correcting that big error, and it comes out exactly my way. Now, he didn't show us that experiment, and he described it as being perfectly consistent. That is, like every single time the clay crushed exactly the same amount. Like there wasn't any inconsistencies at all. And now he's going to claim there was a whole bunch of irregularities and inconsistencies. No, there weren't. So he's just lying. Okay. That something needed to be fixed. When no, he had the experiment pretty much as simple as possible, as few things to screw it up as possible, and now he's just trying to find, like Brozo, he's trying to find ways to screw up the experiment, to make it not work anymore. Yes, and that's it. And this is so bad. I mean, he says better proof of kinetic energy, yay. It's not even close of a proof of kinetic energy. I mean, it's so far off, it's like 90% off. It's like almost as bad as you can get for KE. I mean, it can't be much worse as a proof. It's so bad. And he's claiming it's a proof. It's just an amazing lie. This is just such a lie title. The whole video is a big fat piece of fake news. It's just disgusting that he gets away with this. And even these trolly little douchebag commenters can't even call him out on the fact that he's just lying. Disgracefully lying. All right. Oh, it's amazing. Piro won't show up and call him a liar. None of you will call him a liar. This is a lie. To say he's proving kinetic energy. Like I said, he couldn't be further away. It's 10% away from me and 90% away from his prediction. And he's calling this a victory for his side. Can you get any more despicable and creepy? No, you really can't. There's nobody worse than this. Who's worse? Who's a bigger liar on the internet than this guy? He's now defeated Brozo, okay, and he's the reigning lying champion. He's hiding the experiments. He won't show us the ones, that came out my way. I mean, he's doing everything he can to prove that he's not in this for science. He's in this for one purpose, and that is to fool people. Period.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that was Julius Sumner Miller.
Right, and so he's just mocking almost anything. He'll pick on anything to mock now. Obviously, you're not doing a Joule. You don't take physics serious. If physics was his business, physics isn't your business. Your business is attempting to discredit me, and that's all you're in it for. You have no passion or love for science. You liar. You pathetic liar.
He also famously said that if the experiment fails, it's not the fault of nature, it's that I haven't fulfilled nature's requirement.
Right, and failure means it doesn't agree with you. So the experiment was a proof, even though he made an egregious error and was doing it all wrong and clearly wasn't a proof, and he claims it's a proof. And then he doesn't even retract that, and he fixes the error, and then he claims the experiment must be broken because it's not coming out my way. It's not like the experiment showed it was broken. No, he just doesn't like the results.
experiments or something like that. And that's what's very difficult to do when you're doing experiments in your garage. But anyway, we improved.
And so, and you're the one advocating for that, right? You've only had, like I said, real science has had 350 years. You people won't even peep and suggest that real science should be doing these experiments. You won't even make a peep. You won't say a word. You won't complain that why haven't they done these experiments? Yeah, let's get these experiments done. Damn it, this is bullshit. Why are they claiming this crap is the truth when they won't prove it? All right, so now we're just going to hear how he has contrived a fake excuse to do a whole bunch of rigging, and now the two weights really aren't very similar.
With these weights, part of the problem I was having was that as the weight dropped on the bar, as the weight dropped off of the bottom of the...
So let's understand, there wasn't a problem in the sense his results were insanely... We have to understand, they had to be crazy consistent. Not even a 1 or 2 off. I mean, he's saying that 5 is a big number here, right? 5 millimeters of clay. He thinks that's a huge discrepancy. So his results had to be insanely consistent for him to not even publish one version of the experiment. So there was no wobble problem.
Copper tube onto the plasticine.
If there was a wobble problem, you understand. So this is a physicist Michael will tell you. There's no probability, okay, that a wobble problem would create perfectly consistent results every time. A wobble problem can't do that.
It was off the tube, and it was skewing.
Right, and then sometimes it wouldn't skew, and sometimes it would skew, and sometimes it wouldn't skew. So how could that possibly got you consistent results? So it couldn't have been much of a problem if your results were perfectly consistent.
It was skewing and sort of going like that, one thing another, and giving a false result.
Right. So you didn't point out how you got very irregular readings from the clay, that the clay came out different every time because sometimes it fell this way, and then sometimes it was flat, and then sometimes it was something. No, you didn't say any of that.
So I've taped these.
Big contrived lie. So he's taped a new piece of crap to create friction. So that's all this new crap is a way of introducing friction. And probably the two pieces of crap he has to create the friction aren't exactly the same friction being created. Clearly the heavy mass is going a shorter distance. A little bit of friction might cause it a lot more trouble. It's in the gravity a shorter amount of time.
Bobbins on. That means that as the weight is compressing the plasticine, it's still being supported on the bar.
Right, so that's rubbing against it. Supported means rubbing. So now you're not really doing the dropping the thing in kind of an honest way. Now you're kind of dropping the thing with stuff rubbing on it. So he thinks this is the improved experiment. So introduce a new variable to cause irregularities. And that's what we got here now.
Centralized on the tube by these bobbins. As for the weights, this is the double mass. Sorry that it's going to be in old-fashioned. That is 5 pounds, 4 ounces, and half of that should be 2 pounds and 10 ounces. Is 2 pounds 8, 9, 10. 2 pounds 10 ounces. It's not equal.
Yeah, it's not quite right, but whatever. Who cares?
2 pounds 10 ounces is half of 5 pounds 4 ounces. Okie dokie. Right, bear with.
All right, so I should say, while he's messing around, so again, he's trying to find ways to force the experiment. So now he's forced a little 10% difference. He's got 9 more cheats to go to get to his result. I mean, he's still 90% away from proving kinetic energy. He's only gotten 10%. Because he was 100% away, okay, in the previous experiment. So he's only improved it by 10% in his direction. 10%. So we have 9 more cheats to wait for. 9 more crap. He'll tie a pigeon to it, and then he'll put a frog on top of the clay. And then maybe he'll rub it with some sort of like magic lamp oil or something. Hope a genie pops out.
Got a more accurate measurement system. I measured from the bottom of the tube 9 inches.
Oh, okay. So now he's changed the way he measured also. Oh, okay. That ought to be interesting too, right? So somehow in 3 other versions of this experiment, he couldn't figure out how to measure 4 equal lines on a bar, and that he can't figure out that it has to really be 4 units of equal distance, that the weight has to fall. He can't figure that out. So it's
the first mark, and then I multiplied that by 4, which is 36 inches.
So, I mean, it's just you're saying, isn't this a little dangerous? Why don't you measure, all right, from here 9 inches and then multiply it by 4 and do 4 units of distance? I mean, why is he doing it to this notch and then doing 36 inches? Why is he doing that? Very strange. 36 inches? If he's adding 3, it should be 27 inches. 9 times 9 is 18, plus 9 is 27. Why did he add 36?
And then I marked the 36 inches up there.
Total of 36. So he doesn't say things exactly correctly.
The other thing I did, I got a more accurate measurement system. I measured from the bottom of the tube.
Now, the bottom of the tube isn't exactly where the clay is, so that's not too brilliant either, but whatever. I mean, it's really a difference in the dropping distance. You really have to make sure your clay is right at the bottom of the tube then. But whatever, let's just assume it's close enough. But I mean, geez.
9 inches to the first mark, and then I multiplied that by 4, which is 36 inches.
Okay.
And then I marked the 36 inches up there.
Good enough.
So we get over that measurement issue problem.
Yeah, well, we don't really see it, so we don't get to say you did anything honest here. But whatever, fine.
Right, let's do this one first. The half mass double velocity.
Alright, so it's close enough here at the bottom, right? Yeah, close enough. But yeah, he is just rolling these clay hunks out, so maybe he's already figured out if he rolls it a little fatter, or he rolls it a little this, or rolls it a little that, he'll cheat a little in his favor. He really can't be trusted, frankly. We'll see what he's up to. He's desperate to make the experiment not work.
Just touching the plasticine. Mark just underneath the weight.
You can't.
1,000, 2,000.
We don't get to see any of that, of course.
Oh, I'll go 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, go. Looks like a good impact.
So this is the part you just can't even come close to understanding. I mean, frankly, this 5% difference. I mean, it's a 10% difference. That's it, 10%. He needs 90% to get to, of the kinetic energy thing. He needs to get all the way to 30. And he got to 55. He has to get to 30. And he got to 55. And he writes a title, Better Proof of Kinetic Energy. I mean, how can you get more dishonest than this? This is insanely dishonest.
that measures 55 millimeters. It's a good,
So again, says him, of course.
a good squish, I would say. 55 mil.
And we'll only see this once, of course. So in the other experiment, he did it all day long. You know, the one that proved me right. And all day, he couldn't get any variation. Yeah. Hilarious.
Down from 100 again. Rolling, 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 rolling. Oh, I might have some fun again. What does it matter if you have a bit of fun along the way?
Oh, brother.
As long as you get to the right.
Yeah, as long as you're slandering people and pretending, you know, to be playing some role as a credible human when all you are is a petty weasel.
As long as you do the science right and we get to the truth.
Right. So we didn't get to the truth. All these proofs, and none of them are the real thing, apparently, right? How many proofs is he going to have? So he gets to have 3 different proofs? You know what? When do we say it's the fathead yelling proof? You know, like the boy who cried wolf, crying proof. The fathead crying proof. Maybe that should be my next title. Fathead crying proof.
Which is the goal here, of course. Bit of fun doesn't matter, does it?
Get what you deserve.
Yeah, I'm taking me time getting this just right.
Yeah, I'm sure.
100 mil.
Let's see if it's the same height as the other one when he puts it under there.
Getting to the truth's the key goal here.
It seems like it doesn't touch the clay, that's for sure. Why are you doing it up there? Oh, that's right, he's going to drop it, okay.
Bottom mark.
So it really does look like a Brozo experiment. I mean, all the tape on it, all this bullshit, you know, just wonderful. Yeah, it's so much better that way. Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go. What we got now? Oh, good. Nice, good, consistent squish, and we've got 60 mil.
Right, and he's calling this proof. He should have 30. Yeah. He's calling it proof. I'm just saying. Huh? What? So the other one should have been 30 and it was 55. It should have been 30.
60 millimeters.
Amazing.
I forget what I said on the first one, I'll have to run it back, but we've got 60 mil now, down from 100. Now Gary's got it wrong, of course, because he says even if there's a difference, which disproves his momentum energy.
Whatever. Like I said, you already did the experiment and you didn't find a difference. And you didn't show the experiment and you're just lying now. You know, that somehow there was something wrong with the experiment you did previously. We didn't get to see it. We didn't get to see all that wobble crap. We didn't see any of these fucking problems you say there were. And you did it over and over again and it came out exactly the same way. You didn't do this one over and over again as far as we know, right? You don't even remember the numbers, so I guess you couldn't have done it too many times. You know. So, yeah, who could take you seriously? Who would trust you to babysit a goldfish? I mean, you're just such a lying, cheating, finagling bullshitter. I mean, this is so disgusting.
Theory. But he said that also disproves the kinetic energy theory, because if it's predicted that it's got double the energy from twice.
No, it's 4 times the energy, fuckhead. Well, yes, double in this case, sorry. I mean, because it's the half mass.
The velocity with half the mass, it should squish the sample twice as much. And because it doesn't do that, he says, well, there you go, that kinetic energy's failed. That's a nonsense. It's like...
Why is that a nonsense? This is the very experiment you would do to try to find the energy. We're trying to collect the energy. How do we collect it? You chose the experiment because you thought you could collect the energy this way, so what the fuck? You're supposed to be collecting the energy. What's the problem? Why aren't you collecting the energy? I mean, it's just such a bullshit excuse. I don't hold your experiment to the same standard. So your energy is magic energy. It doesn't show itself. It's invisible man energy.
The business with the spring. He believes that a spring doesn't. He believes that a spring stores energy linearly, like Hooke's law. Hooke's law is not the end.
So he's saying it doesn't. Okay, so I compress a spring a certain amount. He says the spring could be any amount. Doesn't matter. It could be 100 pounds. It could be 700 pounds. It doesn't matter. Same amount of compression. I can get any kind of power I want out of it. It's really their notion of reality. They think gasoline can make more or less energy. Not that we could waste using it, but no, we don't waste it. The gasoline decides to give us this much or to give us that much. It's just so fucking insensible. There's just no logic here at all. It's just a no logic zone.
Energy stored, that's just a measure of the weight upon the spring. He's getting it all wrong. It doesn't store linearly. Double the velocity, we would not expect double the compression of the clay.
Why not? So I guess he's saying we wouldn't expect a twice as fast bowling ball having, twice the momentum, twice the kinetic energy to knock down more pins. So there's absolutely no way to test his magical energy because it doesn't do anything. The magical kinetic energy has no obligation to do anything. It doesn't have to be functional. Oh, okay. That's his personal theory, by the way. There's every requirement for it to compress the clay twice as much. If it's real energy, it has to do it if it's anything called real. Real force, real energy does real things. It doesn't do non-real things.
At all. So that's a nonsense. The fact that there's a difference proves that there's greater energy in the faster velocity because of the
the fact that there's a 10% difference that you contrived by tying friction devices to the weights. Oh, okay. Oh, hilarious. Again, he wouldn't show us the experiment that came out my way. He won't show it.
The kinetic energy theory, and it disproves momentum energy theory because that would indicate the same. Right. So, anyway.
Alright, so physicist Michael says this guy does good demos. So this is the kind of people who should be doing experiments in their basement. Pathetic, lying kooks like this. You just can't get, it's just such an insane statement. Better proof of kinetic energy, yay. His numbers are worse than his first video by a long shot, and he's calling it a better proof. Now, the only reason why the first video got good numbers for his side was because he can't count to 4. There should not be. This is just kind of an integrity test for the audience, right, of these people. If none of these people have the integrity to say, you really shouldn't be doing this, you're just making us all look like shithead liars. This isn't a proof of kinetic energy. You can't call this experiment a proof of kinetic energy. You're way the fuck off. Not one of them can say that? Not one of them has the integrity to say, you're just lying and you're making us all look like lying fucking bums. Why are you doing that? You've made 3 videos now saying you proved something, and all you proved is you can't do the experiment right. What else did you prove? I can chicanery it any way I want and get any results I want. Yeah. Are you showing something else? It's just so bad. You may notice the double mass has copper wire still around its bobbin. This gave an advantage over one mass as it raises its center of mass. Being the generous man I am, I'll let you have that advantage, Gary. So I don't see any. I don't know even how you could see the advantage. So there's some kind of other variable he's introduced. Okay, you may have noticed the double mass has copper wire still round around its bobbin. What does that mean? What is the copper wire doing? This gives an advantage over the one mass. How you weight it with this bobbin thing attached? What are you talking about? What's the advantage? I'm sorry, I'm not reading your advantage. You were too stupid to figure out in the first experiment that the advantage, you had hugely disadvantaged my side. You were too stupid to figure out who gets an advantage. Well, somebody else will have to notice whatever this crap is he's saying here. But I don't see any advantage, frankly. So, it sounds like a big, fat fucking lie. Alright, so let's see what this MC lying piece of shit says. The surface area of the clay is increasing as it gets compressed. Irrelevant. They're little molecules of clay. They're going to displace, okay, a certain amount. And whether they bang into each other to do that doesn't make much difference. It's going to be a cascade of motion. And the cascade really has to force the clay the only way it can go. It can't go up and it can't go down. So yeah, it has to go sideways. And it is increasing exponentially, whatever that means. As each millimeter is compressed, the object needs to displace more clay and push against an even greater force. So they'll have to explain where the greater force comes from, because it's exactly the same pressure, it could be argued, all the way through the experiment. There's the same pressure going forward. The clay doesn't multiply the pressure. It doesn't get under high pressure. That's why it moves so easy. It's flexible. It moves. So you can't increase the pressure in the clay because it just always shoots it sideways. It's like trying to squish water between your fingers. You can't make the water increase its pressure if it can squish out sideways. If it can squish out sideways, I can't increase the pressure. Alright, I think this is why the ball is dropped in clay gives different results. So he's another one who, I've explained the Brozo round things into clay things so many times. So these people are all going to unanimously say they don't understand that the shape of an object can affect how far something penetrates. So they think that if I don't put an arrowhead on my arrow, it'll go just as deep into somebody. It doesn't change anything. That's how pathetic liary they are. Okay. Because the surface area of the ball in contact with the clay remains roughly unchanged. So again, doesn't make much sense. There's a huge change as the round surface gets wider and wider and wider. So how could you argue it remains unchanged? Absolutely silly. These balls are not going into the clay, liar. So you don't even understand that, MC moron. You don't even understand that the whole way the experiment worked was you didn't allow the balls to penetrate into the clay. You just have the clay stiff enough and you have the distance short enough that they just dent the clay. So one ball doesn't even get halfway into the clay. Dumbass. Alright. Remains roughly unchanged. Basically, the ball displaces the clay around itself, while in this experiment the clay compounds at the front of the object. So again, they're making some kind of argument that the clay doesn't squish evenly, that the toothpaste doesn't squeeze out of the tube fairly consistently. The water doesn't come out of the hose consistently. It's just absolute shit. Alright, so let's see. Julius Sumner Miller was a legend. Well, whatever, he was a bit of a nut. His spoketh wise words. Some may convolute meeting nature's requirements as rigging the experiment. Oh, I mean, duh. But the devil is in the detail. Yeah, that's right. You're using the details to do the devil's mission. Okay, if we don't meet nature's requirements, then we're not seeking the truth. So where was nature's requirements not met in the previous experiment where he said every single experiment came out exactly the same? Why was that experiment broken? Do you understand the brokenness? Did you see it? Oh, that's right, he didn't show it. The bobbins are a great improvement ions. So how do you know they're an improvement? How do you know that they're not just causing drag? To stop excess energy being lost in the sideways direction. So there's no proof that the sideways direction could in any way take away energy. All it could do was create a crooked bend in the clay. And if the clay was bent crooked, he would notice that when he's measuring it. Clearly he didn't mention anything about, the clay bent so crooked that I couldn't measure it. He never made that statement. So just more lying and lying and lying. Thanks, and I'm sorry I missed your joke about wool over eyes. I'm only a thick moron after all. A lying thick moron. You're retarded and dishonest. I was thinking that if we really delve into the detail, now if we actually get somebody credible to do the experiment, somebody honest, the higher drop height is meeting with more air resistance. So isn't this hilarious? He's talking about air resistance of an object that weighs 2.5 pounds. No chance air resistance is a factor. And more friction on its longer journey. So he just keeps searching for some bullshit excuse. Okay, but the results still came out with more compression. It's almost like the half mass is more energetic. I mean, it's hilarious. I mean, hilarious, right? It's 90% short, but it's more energetic. But I'm in the moron camp too, mate. So what would I know? Exactly. You don't know anything. You really don't care to learn anything. That's for sure. And all you want to do is fake experiments. Clearly, this is just the title is obscenely dishonest. The experiment is nowhere close to what you claim it to be even much of a proof against my theory. Even if there were a 3 or 4 or 5% error, it wouldn't mean much. It wouldn't mean anything, frankly. I mean, Professor Lewin accepted 5% all the time. So yes, 10%, yeah, it's a pretty big error. But it's also understandable because look at the shit he taped onto the fucking goddamn weights. And we got to see nothing. We don't get to know that these measurements are even right. We don't know any of that. So no moral point in weighing the masses if you're not going to show the tape measure on your stick, and if you're not going to allow us to see where the fuck you're even holding the weights. A little inch here, a little inch there makes a difference. So you don't think he could have fudged it a little? Yeah, I think he could have. But whatever. It's just really bad. And his motivations are completely... He makes him illegitimate just because of his motivations. He is not a truth seeker. Ugh, God, this is so pathetic. So we'll see. I mean, there won't be one single one of these morons will show up and say something like, you're really going too far. Your rhetoric is just out of bounds. So these are comments that didn't show up. Okay, so Dark and Les. One last thing. You pulled down the copper pole on the video. In the video, there's no consistency in the experiment because you cheated, you moron. Well, I don't know if he did that. In fact, the measurements would be more closer if you actually had the integrity, but you lack that. But we already see that he doesn't even show us the video where it came out my way. He wouldn't even show us the experiment. Okay, so we could judge whether it was a bad experiment. The markings are on the rod. Pulling it down to meet the top of the clay doesn't alter the distance markings. If you really thought about that. Yeah, we can't see any of that, so we don't know whether you fudged that too. It doesn't make it consistent if you're moving the rod closer to the rolled out clay. It doesn't make it consistent if you move the rod closer. I don't know why he's repeating that, but he does. Are you Gary Bot? Well, that's not a very relevant response. Not sure why you felt the need to repeat your misunderstanding 6 times. So this is somebody else. I don't know. Il Glazer. You are constantly missing the point. And what is the point? Think about it. Even better, test your idea out. You should have even more amateurs, making more amateur experiments. It works so good. It's such a great way to do science. It was a glitch. Google, YouTube sucks. Okay. Well, that's good enough. Guess I don't know exactly what the glitch was. Oh, this posting more than once. Oh, okay. So there's not really a good point here. I don't know exactly. He's just basically saying the markings are on the rod. Pulling it down to meet the top of the clay doesn't alter the distance markings. It certainly does, but whatever. I mean, I really don't understand how, your clay has to be precisely 100 millimeters, and you precisely have to be right on top of the clay. Okay, if that's what you're saying you did, fine. But we couldn't see any of that. All right, doesn't believe there's anything else here, right? No, these are all the redundant bullshit from the morons. So that's it. All right. So it just amazes me, really. I mean, I knew you people were low brow. I mean, I know you're cretins and cruddy human beings and shitty, and you don't give a fuck about the truth, Piro. I mean, I know that's who you are. But you really can't admit that this moron shouldn't make 3 videos saying proof of kinetic energy when it's not even close? I mean, it's not even close? Yeah. Fuck. I mean, just fuck. You're just such scum. Alright. So, enough of a video. So we'll see where it goes. I mean, it is amazing. I mean, eventually, like I said, if nothing else changes and someday I have to really do these simple experiments, then I will. But I mean, it's just like, what, It's just amazing that these experiments aren't already done. I mean, simple fucking goddamn idea. You drop something from a height, you collect your gravitational force, you got your double velocity. What happens to a device you put there that can actually measure energy? Now, that's the trickiest part, is finding some device that's perfect. Now, there really isn't much logic to say clay can't do it. I mean, theoretically, it really does have to move like a liquid. And so, yeah, it'll give you a constant resistance, fairly constant resistance to motion. But there probably is, like I said, springs should work, but we're having trouble with springs. Recognizing whether they actually do weigh anything or whether they actually do work. Now, I'd argue they do. It's just that the way people are using the springs, that is in cheap plastic carts, well, that's not too smart. All right, but anyway, till the next time and such, I just don't. Again, I thought, this would be difficult, but I didn't have any idea that the real difficulty would be the dishonesty of the opposition. I really didn't think science-minded people would be so fucking dishonest.